But what I wanted to talk about today was a little bit of my setup that I have here. Um, some of the things you'll need if you're starting a hobby. Of course, I got a bunch of stuff I'm gonna go over. Just a quick overview. But when it comes to the filtration system, I have an Aquarium. It might be a little dark, so I apologize. I ain't even took me turn a light on or something in here. I got the door open, but that might be a little better. Not too much difference. Basically, when you're okay, I got the Aquarium 5475. I'm probably gonna have to get another one because I have 8 fish and I feed them really good, and so they pretty viral, have a roast appetite. So that means they do a lot of pooping and peeing. But we'll test the water in this video, and I'll show you what it's looking like, give you an idea about how I do things. But of course, you're gonna need a filter for the size of your tank, and it goes without saying. And I have a few little miscellaneous air hose parts in there that'll go with your aerator, which is basically a little Whisper 60, another little thing that you'll need. See, this one is up to a 60-gallon aquarium. Mine's a 55, and you can see it right there. Something right there. Would rattle or make too much noise, So, got my drip lines for everything. It goes up under my curtains here, and everything's got a nice little drip line. So you got this running from the aerator, which is basically blowing bubbles. And you see my little house there. Of course, it's turned around. I used to care about where that hose was and everything in there, but after a while, you be cleaning this thing out, you don't even care. But actually, the fish moved it right there. That big fish, when he gets in there, he starts moving things. He doesn't care, but he's huge though, and everybody else is growing so good. Anyways, you're gonna need a aerator, and what I've done, and I'm gonna show you this to help you. I've got extra, I guess, filter padding. So you can get a pack of it real cheap. Also, you'll need cartridges. I think this was like 13 bucks, and I'll show you what this looks like. It's a cartridge like this to go in, and it has carbon inside of there, and that's kind of like what catches everything, kind of filtrates things. Also, these are like called ammonia reducers. These are like coated filter pads that go on the front side of this. You can see a little bit right there, the front side of this. Oh, let me show you on the box. That'd be a lot easier. Yeah, there we go. They just go right here. All right. So you got those. Of course, just like miscellaneous air stuff, you have those. Now, at first, I got this pH test kit, which I said, man, I feel like I'm in science class or something, biology or something. I don't know. I bought that and just I have it around. But instead I use the test strips, and these work so much better and so much more efficient, and I'll use them before I finish up. But it has all the guides there. Okay, so you need that. Oh yeah, eventually at some point you probably have to treat your fish for ick. I thought I had an episode of ick because they were huddling at the bottom, and they got real scared every time I come close to the tank. So, and I didn't see really no white specks on them, but I figured give them a nice slime coat. I just treated them anyways, just in case, because the water changed. I did probably a 90% water change one time, and I know the degrees changed because what it was before it got real hot during the summer. They've always been about 76 to 78. Right now they're about 76 in this tank right here. So they've all thrived in there, even the plecos that's in here somewhere. But anyways, let me get you, so you might have to treat them for ick or something. So you need some kind of bacteria or something to get them, acclimated, some kind of treatment for your tank. And there's so many more that you can treat your tank with. Now, of course, every time you do a water change, this is one of the main things that you'll absolutely need is a dechlorinator, a water conditioner. And I just got the big bottle. I mean, I'm doing water change. Here's what an example of a water change is and what takes place during that process. You pretty much would either have a specialized device that you would use, and here I'm just using the water hose because the water temperature here is pretty much what it is in the tank. Outside, I go ahead and run it, get the really hot water out. Sometimes I let just a little bit of that stay in there just to give it a nice little mix. But these fish are pretty hardy. Even with a few degrees off, I've noticed they hadn't been changed or altered them too much. But technically, there's so many ways you can do a water change. But here's just an example of one. And you can see here, even in this video, as you'll see later, how I had all this stuff in the bottom of the tank, but eventually you'll see it and the difference of it when I remove everything. So I just want you guys to see that. But it's a time-consuming process. I mean, you're talking about, this is a 55-gallon tank. It takes me on average anywhere, because of how I do my setup and what I use, anywhere from maybe about 15 to 30 minutes to do it. So this is something you have to calculate, you know, keeping your fish nice and clean, or keeping them in some clean water. Now here's an example of a water siphoner. Basically it's a tube, a pretty long tube, and you'll have another tube that has more tubing attached to it, like that right there. And basically you'll cap the end off, and if your suction is real good, you can just jerk this thing. You can just jerk it, and before long the water will come, it'll siphon itself up, or you can put it in the tank. And I won't really get into the siphoning process because it's something you'll probably have to look up on YouTube. I won't show you that part because and again, it might take a little time because mine don't work as good as it used to. But I use this just like a rain barrel myself, and then I use this just to get the water out, because I don't have enough tubing, which I should have been and bought more tubing by now to run it outside, but I just keep doing it like this for some reason because I'm silly. But that's a siphoner. That's all I wanted to show you, and that's what you would need definitely for a big tank. Little tanks, you might be able to scoop it out with, you know, something like a pitcher or something like that. But you definitely, for a bigger tank, you need something like this, unless you got a bigger sump system or some kind of form of filtration system where it won't require you to do as many water changes. But this is normally basically really good for gravel and things like that, to get the food particles and stuff out of it. So even with the filtration system, you still need something like this. I guess give or take every 3 to 5 days, depending on how cloudy the water gets. Although cloudiness ain't necessarily a bad thing always, but after a while though, you just want to give the fish a little break, you know, just like in the natural environment. Although the water in the lake is pretty fishy and nasty sometimes, it's not like as clear as maybe at the ocean. But there's this clarity stuff. I don't really like this, but I have it. I bought it thinking it'll do something, but it's messy too. It'll cloud your water up worse than see how it kind of foams up off there. It'll cloud your water up worse than it might look. And mine's a little cloudy here, you can halfway see it. But you use a bacterium supplement. Here's something else you might need. And one other thing that I brought into this equation, because you know, as you go along you get a little better and better. Everybody has their own setup, but I'm not trying to spend a whole arm and a leg with these fish. I was just really got for my little baby, but end up turning to it's a serious hobby, and it's actually quite expensive if you let it. You know, I'm just using goldfish. I'm not using like an African cichlids, or I'm getting a red-tailed catfish or something like a platinum gar or something like that. I'm not doing nothing crazy. Now them fish can like I said, it can really get up there. But when you use inside your filtration system, and I'll show you how I did that up top in just a few minutes, if you're still watching. Basically what I've done is I took and I use these little bags of carbon and I add them inside the Aquarium, and it actually works. I'm telling you, it works wonders. In addition to the carbon that's already in there, so they don't tell you can do this and how you can cheat. So many ways you can cheat, and the fish have just been thriving. I mean, they love. I mean, for what it's worth, this little 55. I mean, they do really well. They got plenty of room in there. You can see they just do what they want to, and they forage all the time because there's always so much food left over. And I'll give you an idea about how to do the feeding, but definitely get you some extra carbon. This is the Fluval, and I love these. I bought 2 packs this time because I used 3 inside the filter. I was using just one at one time, but it really helps that smell too, because that fishy smell, you know, when you go to the surface of the water, and I'll show you up here, you smell it, you can sniff it, but it don't smell like anything. It don't smell fishy, so it really helps that smell big time. And let me move down here so they run now. Now here's the deal. here's what I'm feeding my fish now. Let me separate everything because I got some new and some that's not old. I've got the traditional flakes. I don't particularly care too much for giving them flakes, but that's when I got it first, and I was like, man, I want to do something different, you know, give these guys a really really big, you know, different diet. I was gonna try in addition to the flakes, I was gonna get tubiflex worms or tubiflex, but instead I used the blood worms. So I used the blood worms. Also, I used the chips because these kind of float a little bit and they sink a little bit too. So this also helps with my algae eaters too. It'd be little, you know, little chunks and stuff that's left over that they can kind of get at because I use the algae eater. These little and these are pretty cool. Let me show you what they look like. But see, the problem with these, they're not really that big. And now that one goldfish, he's so big, he'll eat all 4 of these by himself. So I have to make sure I leave plenty of extra food to where it's just enough to, and I feed them once a day now instead of 3 times a day. So I put about 4 of these in the tank. And then I also use these little shrimp and lobster pellets. Now these are such a good buy because goldfish, again, they eat almost anything. But these little things are like floating pellets, but they, I'm telling you, they absolutely love these. I know probably most people think I'm crazy using these, but it actually works really good. They just eat it up. And it's a good little filler for them. And this is one of my favorite things I like is the shrimp pellets. Now they eat these bad boys up like crazy. Let me see if I can twist this top off of here. Sorry about my feet up in this video. Don't y'all see these crusty dusties. But anyways, these are pretty cool. But then again, they'll just swallow them down, and I mean, it's pretty cool. Let me show you these other two too. I am thinking just pop the tops off of those. Top on him, because I think some of these are brand new. Can't remember which ones are. I think that was a new one. Yeah, that's the ones. Okay, that's not new. Let's see here. All right, this one's not new. But you can see how these flakes look right here a little bit. I know it's kind of hard to see, but they love those. They absolutely love those flakes. How active everybody is now. All the let goes and all the fish are just cuddled up in that little corner. They run like crazy now though, like I said, they really run. Big boys. Okay. Really the video don't do it justice. Last but not least, let me get these blood worms. Now that's a new pack I can squeeze in tail. Let me see here, get the old one. Here we go. So you can definitely get an idea here. That's how they look right there. Just a little crazy what fish will eat, but they eat those. I tried to give them real worms like from Walmart night crawls, but they were too big for them at the time. I think now, this one in particular, he can definitely swallow one, but I just chose against it. But I feed them, I normally just give them a little bit of everything. So I just mix up all these 5 together all at once because I know pleco eat a little differently. And they don't always eat when the goldfish eat. And I always keep some extra stuff. And I sometimes, I still put a little bit of the flakes in there, but not a whole lot. But that's really what I've been feeding my fish. And I used to feed them 3 times a day. So you can imagine that's why they grew so fast. Because I've only had them for like a couple months. So you can just imagine, see how big that bad boy is, and these boys are getting fat. What's up, guys? As I edit this very video that you're watching, I've added this brine shrimp. It's just like a little treat, but I figured that, again, since the algae eaters don't get a lot of the pellets because the other fish, now I about cleaned this out, but this is kind of like what this looks like. It normally comes like in little balls that look like the ones to the left there. But they absolutely, the big fish, I'm telling you, he'll eat over half of what I feed him. I've got some more shrimp pellets. They love shrimp. I mean, absolutely love shrimp. And these are different from the other shrimp pellets that I have. And the only thing about shrimp pellets and stuff, they really stink really bad. So it's one of those deals to where, again, good having that carbon, the extra carbon helps out. And it's just, when you feed aggressively like I do, you will have to change the tank out a lot. Unless you have a canister or some kind of sump system that I'm eventually going to invest in. The way I don't have to do as many water changes as I'm doing. And one other word of advice too. See, I got this. See the size? You got the big ones. I just went ahead and buy big. Just do as many as you possibly can, because you may feed your fish like crazy. Over time, you just get the bigger stuff. At least this is brand new. I hadn't opened it yet, but it's just those little flakes that I like to use in addition to the regular stuff. But I feed them pretty aggressively, and I hope you guys can, you know, figure out what you want to do with your goldfish or whatever fish you have, and you'll be able to take care of them to the best of your ability. And this is something that might help you. Also, guys, since I recorded the last video, you can see I took all the rocks out of the bottom of this bad boy. Now I just treated this again. That's why the water's a little cloudy. I got to do a change of water. Even though I tested it earlier, it's perfect. But eventually I will change it. But you can see my big fish. And see, they start acting like they want to lose scales, but I noticed this one, like again, they'll move everything around in there. So I don't think it's necessarily anything too crazy. But you can see that fish is probably even bigger than it was the last time. I mean, it's just, look at that, he's longer than that house. And that's a pretty decent sized house. I mean, look at that. It's phone case, iPhone 6. So, just put you in perspective. Okay, thank you. There you have it. But it's easier to clean out, definitely a lot easier to maintain with just having some rocks and not as many places for excess food to hide. They slowly coming up. And so now that you've seen that, let me take you over here to my setup in tank. Now before, I didn't have a heater. I just bought this yesterday. I just need a little heater because I don't need nothing really big, because my house, I keep about 77 in here with my air conditioning unit, so I don't have it like frigid. And the only problem is I do have it right up under the vent here, which I've noticed that sometimes they'll huddle over in the corner like that. So I noticed they was getting kind of a little cold, and I check the temps. It might be down about 74. So I put this in here because I only need to alter the degree. It's only a 15-watt heater right there that I have, and it's a great choice. And so I just wanted to alter it just a little bit, even though it's a 55-gallon. As you can see here, here's my thermometer if it'll zoom in, and I'm roughly about close to 76. So I'm about where I normally, that's what I like for both the goldfish and the pleco. It's not too hot, not too cold. So that's just my temperature I like, although I know sometimes they might specify a little different. And I, of course, like I said, I had the SpongeBob thing there for a while, and Cap sitting over there still turned over from the last video. But I kind of really got rid of a lot of this gravel, because that gravel is just, when you clean the tank out, and then when the system itself and stuff's running out of there, you just don't want stuff to really just, you know, you want to float around to where it sucks up inside of your filtration system. And I've run the pipe all the way to the bottom, and you'll see big stuff floating all through there. But of course, with the aeration little thing there and little palm tree, so I'm trying to keep it real basic. So every so often too, if I do a big water change, I'll scoop a lot of this out and I'll get rid of the rocks, because I just want the stuff to be able to flow through. It's just easier to deal with cleaning, and I'll show you why. Now here's the two lids I have on just this one side, mainly because it just bubbles half to death, and you can just see water popping up. Every so often you'll have to, you know, even with a lid, if you had it, just every water evaporates. I don't care where you're at. So it's just one of those deals, and it's constantly moving and popping out the tank. It's all over the place. But I just wanted to show you my setup with this bad boy, so you can get an idea of how I do this. And I'll put that right there. So I got this thing stuffed to the brim, but as you can see, I just cleaned it out not too long ago. I'm sorry about that light, I just moved it. But see how I stuffed those little Duval pads down in, and you can see this thing is it's fairly, I just did the water like yesterday or the day before yesterday, so it's not really bad at all. I mean, you can hardly even smell the fish smell. Anything's hardly built up in it, but I use pads. I basically stuff this thing. It's like try to make my own biofilter, I guess, whatever, but just something. Just stuffed everything down inside of there, in addition to these normal filters. Because see, before you would only have the two that would sit right there, and then this, and you can just imagine how much stuff got past those. So I got tired of just having to clean the tank out seemed like every other day. So this buys me some time, buys y'all us all some time, you know, because we try to, you know, keep the fish as happy and healthy as possible. So I just got this thing tucked in just really tight with a lot of pads and everything, and it just helps so much because it filters all that, especially since I feed them the way I do. Filters all that extra gunk out of there. And I really don't rely on it. They got the LED light thing. I don't even know if this thing ever worked in the first place. It didn't matter because they don't recommend you like clean the whole system out whenever you change the water and everything. But I don't spray it out as good, but I take it out and hose every little piece off. I don't clean the inside of this out, but I do take and hose every piece off. That way I can just get that gunk and stuff off of there, and that still leaves some of the good bacteria. But like I said, these guys are thriving. They're doing really good. It's just a little scary because what happens is when you clean that tank and all that water it just starts, you can hear it, the tank just going crazy. There's that pleco again. He's pretty big. I think that's a small one. The other one's right there on top. But there's those guys, they stay pretty active. Look at them boys, they run like crazy now. You can go to one side, tank, watch this, back to the other side, everybody's gone. They're so fast. But I'm gonna leave them alone, I'm not gonna stress them out. But everybody's doing so good. Trying to make sure I don't get nobody no ick or nothing like that. I look at them from time to time, look at their scales. I did notice that since they hit this thing and moved it, I did notice they lost a few scales. But other than that, nothing crazy. Everybody looks healthy, no eyes bulging out, and you know, none sinking to the bottom or floating. And I've had them all. Everybody's doing really good. So I just wanted to give you guys an update, just something a little different from my tree videos. And then if anybody's, again, the fishing hobby itself, again, it's a great hobby to have, but it can get expensive because you'll need so much stuff. I mean, and I was just fortunate that I was able to get this tank for free, and that saved me. And the stand was only $25. I still haven't painted this thing. I was supposed to by now, but I just, you know how it gets, life catches up to you, just start moving and shaking. So never had time to really, or had made the time really to go ahead and get that straight, get to go with the theme that I have here. But it still kind of blends in because it's just all white. But there you have it. But those guys will try to hide from me if I can sneak up on them. As you can see, his tail is almost as big as some of those fish. He swims backwards. But anyway, guys, you're on with me, Tree Boy for Life. Thanks for watching. And this is for all my guys in the hobby. And there's so many other ways you can do it, so many other things you can do. Oh yeah, I forgot. Man, I'm tripping. Let me test the water out for you, show you what we looking like. Because I was gonna say, sometimes cloudy isn't always as bad as it seems. Okay, I forgot I was gonna do that. Okay. So here's the deal. Oh, I need that thing back to get that over here. All right, you just basically twirl it in there twice, so you dip it. There you go, twice. Oh yeah, you just stand it up like that right there. And I'm going. That's what we're looking like. So we've got a really good water quality. I mean, especially so you can see that what I'm doing, it works. And really, those tabs in this light just look at straight zero. They don't even look like they do when they're outside. Like it's really on it, but I mean it's barely anything. You just want to get real technical with it with the nitrates, but that's what you have. So the fish are happy even though the water's a little cloudy, but cloudy doesn't always mean bad. So there you have it. On with me, Tree Boy for Life. Peace out.